Mr. Croc, thanks for joining me today for an interview. Following the recent Port Phillip Bay ballooning incident, the question of whether ballooning is a safe experience has been thrown around the media. So right off the top, is ballooning a safe experience to undertake?
Thanks for the question, Rip. Yes, look, ballooning is a very safe pursuit. In fact, it is the safest form of aviation on the planet. And as for our Melbourne and Victorian ballooning operations, in over 30 years of operations, we have not seen a single fatality in this state. In terms of people being injured, there have been very, very few injuries, none of them serious in all that time. So it would be absolutely accurate to describe hot air ballooning as safe.
Damien, in relation to the recent incident, which probably is the most talked about ones in the last few years within Melbourne, can you run through what actually happened that day and confirm that the pilot, we must say has over 20 years experience, followed all safety protocols?
Certainly. Well, look, the flight we're talking about occurred on the 21st of May this year, and it was a flight from Bundoora to Brighton, effectively, which is quite a normal flight path for us on a light northerly day. So both of our pilots lined up Dendy Park in Brighton. The first pilot landed there safely, but Peter Wright, who was piloting the second balloon, who is our chief pilot with, as you said, 20 years experience, he lined up the centre of Dendy Park, but he was actually heading directly for a light pole. So he had to actually adjust his approach and go a little bit higher than he would normally have gone. And at the speed that he was travelling, which was between 10 and 15 kilometres an hour at the time, he deemed it much safer to overfly Dendy Park and look for the next option, which did require him to go out over the bay. Now, our standard operating procedures were followed to a T. And what happens when we're out over water is we immediately contact the water police, not because we're going to ditch in the water, but because it's safer to have a boat underneath you. You can get some more fuel on board, so you can actually continue to fly until you reach dry land. We then deemed it safest for the passengers to alight, so they got off onto a boat, which again is standard operating procedure. It's the second time it's occurred in 20 years. And then Peter flew on safely and landed at Safety Beach, which is on the Mornington Peninsula.
What is your response to the public commentary and a number of authority members wanting to know why balloon aircraft do not carry life jackets on board?
Look, the issue of life jackets has come up on 2 occasions in the last 5 years, and on both occasions we've had the same response. Life jackets are not required as a part of the normal operating equipment on our aircraft because we don't actually plan to conduct our flights over water. And as I've said to the media and to any of the authorities that have asked, the most buoyant device in the entire equation is the 240,000 feet of hot air that are captured inside a hot air balloon. So that is an extremely buoyant device, and I'd much rather have 240,000 cubic feet of hot air than a life jacket that's slung around my neck.
Mr. Graham, thanks for joining us today for a brief chat. Can you let us know and inform the wider public what actually happened on board and what was Picture This Ballooning like to deal with in the near tragedy circumstances?
The effort of the whole crew at Picture This Ballooning was absolutely terrific. After my experience with Picture This Ballooning, I can totally say ballooning is an extremely safe experience to undertake, and the flight was actually full of fun and laughter.